Call the meeting to order. This is April 9th, 2025, a regular board meeting for the School District of Waukesha Board of Education. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mrs. Ettinger, can you take the roll call, please?
Mark Borowski.
Here.
Eric Brooks.
Here.
Thomas Harland.
Here.
Betty Koenig.
Here.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Here.
Diane Voigt.
Here.
David Wad.
Here.
Anthony Zenobia.
Here.
Kelly Piasek.
Here. And can we verify that the meeting has been properly posted?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. We have some awesome students with us tonight for our Bright Lights presentation, so I'm going to turn it right over to Dr. Siebert.
All right, thank you, Dr. Piasek. So here in the front row, we have Mr. Elliott, the principal at Hadfield, and we have fourth grade teacher, Mr. Resch, and we have three Hadfield fourth graders who competed in the Sharp Literacies Design Contest nowhere else than the Fiserv Forum, home of the Milwaukee Bucks. So the team of Kevion Keith, Mackenzie Scott, and Brooklyn Pats tied for first place with their invention of headphones that will help with nutrition and reminders to eat. So I'm going to invite Mr. Elliott and the students and Mr. Resch to the podium so they can tell you a little bit more about this unique opportunity that they had and the incredible success that they have. And you see they're each holding their trophies. Yes.
Awesome.
All right, so I will talk very briefly because I'll be honest, I had very little to do with this. Is that better? Okay, sorry. I had very little to do with this except for securing busing and other things like that. These three and all of our children did all the work. So it's pretty amazing what goes on. So I don't know how much you know about Sharp Literacy, but it's a program where it brings STEM engineering into schools and activities, and it starts at Hadfield in 4K and goes all the way up to 5th grade. So one of the things we talk about is trying. It's okay not to know things. It's okay to be inventive and creative. And this is a 3rd grade group that actually got to go and compete as well at MATC with engineering students from MSOE in coding and computer game designing. And we actually had a winner from 3rd grade too, Robert. He won Best Video Game way back in, I think it was December or January. So we actually have 2 winning groups at Hadfield, so it's pretty neat to see. But all of our students are involved in it. And it's all something where they think of, this group in particular, thought of a problem and a solution for that. They got to go to the Fiserv Forum. That's their design. Had to get some really cool pictures. And we had a runner-up group that got to go as well. And I think you guys got free lunch at chicken nuggets and pizza, right? Probably like the best lunch you've ever had. And the coolest thing was they were TV stars. They got to be on Channel 6 and be part of Channel 6. Now I'm going to kind of step aside because these three are going places, I can tell you right now. They're very bright young children, and they have a lot going for them. Mackenzie and Brooklyn actually started a grassroots kindness club at Hadfield too. You might have seen that in the Freeman. That was started, completely by children. We just, once they start something like that, we just encourage them. So I'm going to step back and let them talk, and if you have any questions, it might help to ask them a few questions because they like to answer them. So go on up, guys. Mackenzie, you want to go first? All right, just tell them what the idea was and how you came up with the solution.
Our idea was headphones. Well, actually, it was an earpiece to remind people to eat who have eating disorders, but then the earpiece didn't fit, so we had to make headphones. So.
Okay. Brooklyn, you want to talk about your part?
I am the one who did all of the coding, so I made the codes to remind you. So the first one is breakfast, then you have snack, and then you have lunch and dinner, and all of those make a different type of reminder, and you can either have them so you can press the buttons by yourself, so you would have to there's a little compartment where you can open it, or you could have it set on a reminder so you can just have it remind you whenever.
Okay, so my part was talking about like what it was made out of and kinda how kinda hard it took, but it was kinda like very not so hard when we did like our building project. So yeah, it wasn't really that hard, but I can tell it was hard for Brooklyn too. And that is it for me.
So one thing they're being very shy about is they talked in front of hundreds and hundreds of people at the Fiserv Forum. They had to stand up in front of all these people and get grilled and get judged and asked lots of questions. And they did a fantastic job with that. Like they were, either you weren't scared or you hit it really well. But they were super brave. Like I would have been nervous about it. They were talking about, what did you say, something about your stomach, Kavion, before you came up here tonight? And I said, even my heart beats a little fast when I talk in front of people. So it was a pretty neat experience for them. So I don't know if you have any questions for them, but it was a really cool thing that they did.
We do have questions. We'll start with Mr. Watt and then Mrs. Voigt.
First of all, congratulations. I think I speak for all of us when I say how proud we are of what you accomplished. The question I have is, what was your inspiration for this idea? Where did it come from? What was it? What motivated you to pursue that particular project?
Okay. So we were thinking about like health problems, and then all three of us, we thought about how not just people, we don't know if there's people at our school, but people in our community, some of them have struggling eating, or they have eating disorders, and there's all types of eating disorders, but this, okay, yeah, but just multiple of eating disorders can work with this, not just one, because then what if you have a different one and you really need something to remind you? That wouldn't be good because because then it wouldn't be fair if, yeah.
Mrs. Voigt.
So I'm very proud of all three of you, but especially the two young ladies that also started the Kindness Club. Can you tell the group a little bit about your inspiration to start that at Hadfield?
Kenzie, why don't you talk?
How did we come up with this idea? I believe it was in the morning time. I don't remember how I thought of this, but I was like, me and Brooklyn were talking. I was like, oh, Brooklyn, we should start a club. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, we could start like a kindness crew club or whatever. She was like, oh my gosh. And like we could do it with Miss. And I was like, we could do it with Miss A. And so we went to Miss A. She's right there in the back. So we were like talking to her, and she said, you know, and she said, yeah, we can totally do that. And then our faces ended up on the newspaper.
Their first poster was a ripped out piece of notebook paper with some crayon that they wrote on it and hung it up. And it kind of went from there. And how many members do you have now? Like 40 some members of kids. They just started jumping onto this. It just became a thing. So it became a.
Fourth and fifth graders.
What's that?
Only fourth.
Oh yeah, 44th and 5th graders only, so it's pretty cool.
That's impressive. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations. Just repeating what my colleagues said, we're all very, very proud, and I hope you guys are proud of what you've accomplished too. It's amazing. So a lot of times it's hard to work in groups when people have different ideas and sometimes you disagree. I know grown-ups have this problem a lot too. How did you handle working together in a group, and were there times where you needed to kind of work together and compromise to come up with an idea?
So how we came up with this idea? Well, we all just said like maybe we could just do like this one thing, and we all tried to agree with it and try to make like changes, but it was still the same thing. But as we were doing that, we found like a problem which we had, as Mackenzie said, she said there was like a problem with the designing, so we had to make it into the headphones. So that had to work out like that, and then we figured out to kind of like design it and make it into what it was now.
Do you have any disagreements?
One second. It definitely wasn't really easy. I remember it was one day and like we were trying to work on our project, and I got mad at someone and because they wouldn't do the work or whatever. So and those definitely are those things like that we definitely have like gotten like mad at each other about. So definitely was not easy or
But you worked
perfect.
through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We worked through it.
Mrs. Koenig has a question too.
Thank you. You are all superstars. Wow. I have a question for you. I know sometimes maybe when we were younger, we all did this, but do you ever lay in bed at night and wonder what your dream job's going to be? I know you're young, but any of you think about something that you would like to be when you grow up?
Yes. So one of the things that one of the people who inspire me most to keep persevering and keep going even when sometimes it's a struggle is my mom right there. And I want to be just like her when I grow up. She is. What part are you in a vet? She wants to be a vet tech when she finishes online school, and I want to be a vet tech too, but I want to go a little more, and I want to be a real vet, so like a doctor one. And because of all her nice coworkers, I got to see my first ever surgery on an animal, and lots of people thought I would like be grossed out about it, but it was really cool, and I don't really get grossed out by blood, and yeah, and she's one of the main people who helped me, and then also my sister right there, also my other sisters. They show me whenever I'm down that I'm good at some stuff, and and that when it's hard, I can also try again because I don't throw away stuff that you don't like because it's just a little hard, because then that's ruining your dreams.
So what I want to be when I grow up is like kind of like a doctor too, but I kind of want to be like a surgery doctor because when I was like in the hospital, they said that I had like a thing like a appendix and I had to get that taken out. And the surgery people said that it was going to be okay and that I had no chance of dying and not living, but yeah, but then when I woke up, I thought I was dead, but obviously I wasn't. So then I saw my mom, and she was sitting right there, and I said, "Mom," and then she responded, "Yeah," and then I was like, "Where am I?" And I said, "I'm back in my surgery room, or not the surgery room, but kind of like the room I've been in for 2 weeks."
What I want to be when I'm little is I kind of want to be a lawyer because I don't even know. I want to be like a lawyer or like a president, and what? And my stepmom, she's always telling me that one day I'm gonna take over the world, and she'll always be right there watching me, and
I think she's right.
Yeah.
We're super
Yeah.
proud of you.
You're ready.
These are good kids, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You're all amazing. Thank you.
And I'm just going to add, when these terrific kids tied for first place, not one of them whined or cried. The very first thing they said was congratulations to the other team.
That's amazing. So proud of you guys. Did anybody else have anything? Okay. Well, I'm so impressed by all of you, and the common theme that I think we all heard is that you all are incredibly kind and want to help others, and so I can't wait to see what you do, and we hope that you can come back and keep us updated on how things are going, and congratulations again. Really impressive. Proud of you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's just give them a minute. All right, Dr. Siebert. I guess we're next on the agenda. We have some really awesome recognitions tonight. So
Yes.
you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Piasek. So the class of 2025 here in the district has 5 seniors among the Distinguished National Merit Semifinalist group. 2 of them are with us here this evening, Amalia Waltz from Waukesha South and Bennett Warp from Waukesha West. The other 3 are Sophia Antheline and Samantha Stuntner from the Waukesha Academy of Health Professions and Shaksay Vaidyam from the Waukesha Engineering Prep Academy. So approximately 16,000 students qualified for the 70th Annual National Merit Scholarship, which represents less than 1% of U.S. high school seniors. And the number of semifinalists in each state is proportional to the state's percentage of graduating seniors. They're required to write a detailed scholarship application and provide information regarding their academic records, school and community activities, leadership abilities, employment, honors, and awards. So as I said, this evening we're very proud to have Amalia Waltz and Bennett Warp join us. Both of them have moved into the finalist status and are awaiting the news of if they are recipients and winners. So I'd like to invite both Amalia and Bennett to the podium. As I said earlier, Amalia is from Waukesha South. Bennett is from Waukesha West. Exceptionally great news about both of you. They were also downstairs earlier for our reception for other purposes. But, oh yes, and parents, if you want to come up around and take pictures, that's lovely too. But just super proud of you and congratulations. Can you tell us a little bit about the activities and the prowess that you have as students at your schools, and then maybe also about your future plans?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Bennett Warp, senior over at Waukesha West High School.
Bennett, can you
Well, Bennett, just
hit
push
the
the little
button on
button.
the, there you go.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Bennett Warp. I'm a senior over at Waukesha West High School. I'm on the soccer team, tennis team. I've done Model UN, French Club, French National Honor Society, National Honor Society, yeah, I mean, this is a really great honor. I was really excited when I heard that I was a finalist. And then just some future plans. I'm most likely going to UW-Madison in the fall, studying either electrical or computer engineering.
Hi everyone, my name is Amalia. I am from Waukesha South. At Waukesha South, I am part of the marching band. I'm clarinet section leader, and then this year I was a drum major. I'm part of the mock trial team, which is what I was downstairs for. And I also do tennis. I'm a big part of the drama department. That's what I mostly do at South. I am president this year, and I'm a part of pretty much every production, so that's what I spend most of my time doing. And next year I will be at Northwestern for mechanical engineering.
I also just want to mention that we also want to recognize both Amalia and Bennett for being recognized as U.S. Presidential Scholars Program nominees. That program was created to recognize and honor some of the nation's most distinguished graduating high school seniors. And students are nominated by their high schools and selected by the White House Commission on Presidential Scholars, with only 100 students from each state qualifying for that honor. So we can recognize them for that as well. But certainly congratulations, and I'm guessing the board members may have some questions for you.
Mrs. Voigt?
I'm especially proud of both of you. I think this is just amazing to have this type of level of recognition. And I did have the opportunity to see Amalia in the play. And she did, I don't know how you have time to do all the other things you're involved in, because you did such an amazing job in that. Mean Girls was the play.
Well, I have a very important question for both of you. Did you study for the test? Did you prepare for it, or did you jump right in?
For the national merit is for the PSAT. That was
PSAT.
my sophomore year, so I did not really study for that, to be honest. I honestly, at the time, I didn't know about the scholarship. I was just taking it for the opportunity mostly. ACT, I did study quite a bit, so that one I did study.
That was my other question, whether a lot of people don't realize the significance of the pre-ACT and the National Merit Scholarship. So I'm curious, Bennett, how about you? Did you know?
I specifically remember my freshman year, there was a senior on the soccer team, and I don't remember where, but I just remember it coming up a couple of times that he had been in like this national merit, and a little bit later then when I took the PSAT, I kind of heard from like my counselor, like this is how you're going to get into that national merit bucket, I guess. And I honestly couldn't tell you if I studied or not, but I just remember taking that test and then finding out later like I was selected. And then, yeah, I definitely put a lot of work into the application to become a finalist as well. So, yeah.
It's super impressive. Anybody else, questions or comments? All right, well, we're wishing you guys both the best of luck.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have report by our student representative. So welcoming back from North High School, the lovely and articulate Marisa Radi. Welcome back. Thank you. Can you hit the button on your microphone first? There you go.
Did I get it? Oh, excellent. Okay. Hi there. Good evening, everybody. Yes, I am Marisa Radi from Waukesha North High School. I'm a junior this year. Something I want to start off with, which I'm very excited about, is Waukesha North is set to be one of the next student demonstration schools in the state for AVID. I am a member of the AVID program, and the AVID program is amazing. The things that we do within the AVID program, the opportunities we get to go to Lowell once a month, and we get to hang out with the second graders, the fourth graders. It's an amazing opportunity. I have a fourth grade best friend now. Like, I never would have had that without the AVID program. But AVID has amazing opportunities also with college readiness, and we had some teachers at a conference for the AVID program today, and when they announced it, they're like, Waukesha North is here. And they're like, Waukesha North is one of the best AVID schools that they've seen so far. So we were very happy to hear about that news. And I'm very excited next week. I will be one of the tour guides, so if you end up coming, you might see my face again. But yes, so that's something we're very excited about. All grades throughout the entire school, we are all very excited that this is occurring. Next up, we just had our ACT yesterday. It was fun. Like, I actually enjoyed it was fun. I enjoyed taking the test. I loved the writing aspect. I loved every part about it. And we also had the pre-ACT that day as well. I didn't hear that response from many sophomores and freshmen, but it was still very successful on that end. And then next up, we have the Jerry Award nomination, something I am a part of. I'm a part of the drama program at Waukesha North, and we were very excited to see that we had multiple people up for outstanding lead performance, which is Aiden Riley for Seymour Krelborn and Phoebe Wolf for Audrey. And then we also had outstanding supporting performances, which is Juan Flores for Oren Scrivello. He did very well in that role. And then we had our outstanding direction, we had outstanding musical direction, and then other nominations that we typically get, which we were very excited to receive this year. And then next up, we have the academic decathlon, finished 5th at the state competition, which we were very excited to hear about. And then also we have Model UN this year. This is one of the first years. And we got to compete in Madison this past year, and there was a lot of students who were excited to be a part of it. And yep, Next up, we have our state qualifying athletes. We had Paige Samolsky, which was state bound for gymnastics. We had the bowling team, which placed second, and then we had Ben Lauer placed fifth at the WIA state championships. And then we have even more with Marcus Katalik, who is state bound for ski and snowboard. And then we had Lola Holm, which was for dance. And then we also had the dance team overall placed fourth in D3 Pom and second in D2 Hip Hop, which we were very excited to hear about. And then we also had the Academic Athletic Awards, which was the first choice dental academic state champion award for the Waukesha Wings, which is across all of the Waukesha schools. So that was fun, and we have multiple athletes from Waukesha North. Then we also have our all-conference athletes, which for the Classic 8 all-conference boys basketball, we had two honorable mentions, which were Derek Williams and Cooper Haas. And then for the Classic 8 boys hockey, we had Thomas Radomski place second. And yeah, always just follow Waukesha North. We're always doing some fun stuff over here.
Very nice. What questions or comments do you guys have for Marisa? Mrs. Koenig.
I don't have a question. I just have to tell you, every time you speak, you're mesmerizing. You have such a gift, so I hope you pursue that in the future as a career, because you're amazing.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Lots happening over the next few weeks. It's a busy, busy time of
Yes, it
year.
is.
It's hard to believe it's like prom time and there's snow coming.
Yep, we have prom on Saturday,
We'll
yep.
survive, yeah. North's prom is on Saturday, yeah. Oh, you mean the snow or the prom? Both.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you
tonight.
for your
Good to
time.
see you. Thank you. All right, anything else? Back to me? All right, back to me. As if we didn't have enough recognitions tonight. Before we move into our public comment, we do have one really important recognition that I would like to make tonight, and that is for Mr. Borowski, Mark Borowski, who this is his official last school board meeting, and so we'll be saying farewell to Mark after tonight. Just a little bit of background, because when Dr. Seward and I looked at all of the things that Mark's been involved with over the 3 years that he's been on the board, it's just amazing. Mark was elected to the board in April of 2022, and since then, he's served on every committee that we have, Finance and Facilities, Student Services, Teaching and Learning, Policy and Government Relations, and Human Resources and Compensation, over which he has been the chair, currently is the chair. He also served as our board liaison to the Waukesha Education Foundation, and I think has just gone above and beyond on a number of different issues. The one thing that, as I've gotten to know Mark over the last few years, that I've really appreciated about him is that he always does his homework. He makes an effort to listen to everybody's perspective on things. He's willing to challenge all of us on different topics, in addition to just being what I've seen him, just a great dad of two beautiful young ladies who graduated from Waukesha West. His commitment to the district is really appreciated and recognized, and we're going to miss having you at the table with us. So I'm going to give him a minute to say something, but before I do, I want to present him with this plaque in recognition of his service.
All right, I'll try to say a few words. It was only 3 years, not 30, so I didn't think I did that much, but let me just say I've just really enjoyed the time on the board. This is just a personal decision not to run again, so I just want the community to know it has nothing to do with my experience on the board, because it was really a great experience. I think I've gained a much better appreciation for the district, the teachers, administration, all of you as a board. Our district does a lot of really good and great things, which I think you all know. And I think it's rare in your career where you can work with some really skilled and talented people who really care a lot. And I think the people in this room are exactly that. So anyway, I'm definitely going to miss the group, and I just hope to see you guys and gals or work alongside you in the community sometime in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. All right. Next up, we have our opportunity for citizens to speak. We have 2 speakers tonight. Because there are 6 speakers or less, our speakers will be notified at 3 minutes, but allowed up to 5 minutes to complete their comments. We expect all of our speakers to honor our time limit, refrain from using any inappropriate language, and to be respectful in their comments. Speakers who do not meet these expectations may be prohibited from speaking at future board meetings. Speakers are here to address the board, not the audience. The school board does not endorse any comments made by members of the community here tonight. We'd like to remind our community members of the impact of their words on others and that our children are watching. We commit to communicating with you in respectful and productive ways and ask that you do the same. We also ask that the audience will be respectful of the speaker and of the board and refrain from responding with verbal comments, cheering, applause, or other behavior that will detract from the meeting. Please note that no obstructions can be created between the board and the audience. Visual aids cannot be used, and the area behind the speaker and podium will be clear during public comment. Also, in order to respect our speakers and our meeting participants, please silence your cell phones. Our first speaker tonight will be Stacy Keene. Can you hit the microphone? Thanks, Stacy.
There you go. Yeah, so it's been quite a long time. I just want to speak very briefly about an issue that I've noticed continue in our schools, but I also want to say that a majority of our experiences that I hear about are very positive, and I don't think this is the norm, but I think it needs to be addressed. I'm not going to name names or specific individuals or schools, but I do want to bring attention to persistent concern regarding teachers using their classrooms to express personal political views. As educators, their role should be to teach the approved curriculum, not to promote personal ideologies. Unfortunately, a history teacher in particular has consistently voiced political bias, especially when discussing Republican presidents or core American traditions. Rather than presenting historical facts objectively, the instruction often includes personal opinions, which students easily recognize as biased. The most recent incident, which I've already begun discussing with administration, is especially troubling. While teaching about loyalty oaths, this teacher made a comment that kids are still being dragged into it today. The Pledge of Allegiance, for example. The teacher went through the pledge line by line, explaining what each line refers to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic or government. After this pledge discussion, the students were reportedly told it was a form of indoctrination. As I'm sure all of you know, but the state statute and the district policy reads, a commitment to the basic values of our government, including by appropriate instruction and ceremony, the proper reverence and respect for, in the history and meaning of the American flag, the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and the Constitution and laws of the state. This is required as part of citizenship in our schools. So I'm here tonight just to ensure that the board and the broader community are aware that this is still happening. Our classrooms should be spaces for balanced education, not platforms for political persuasion and hatred of our country. I respectfully urge the board to continue to take steps to uphold neutrality and professionalism in our schools. Thank you.
That's okay. Our next speaker is Paul Reese.
Good evening. Good evening, Mark. It's been a pleasure to get to know you.
I want to say one of the things that was pressing when you came onto the board was behavioral issues in this district. We just came out of COVID, and there was a big problem with the way kids were behaving in our schools. And it was addressed. That board took it on. And it was, I believe it was in the Teaching and Learning Committee this month. The gentleman was giving his information to the board. And he gave a list of how that's going right now. He said, how are the behaviors doing right now? Decreased use of out of school suspensions, decreased use of in school suspension, decreased use of pre-expulsion following level 3 offense, decreased use of detentions, decreased use of no pass in the hall, no hall pass. So we are down in everything except for the first one where you yell at a kid, you call him into the office and you give him notice that he's out of line. And these things are all good things that have happened since you got on the board, Mark, since that group took over it and came into this room and addressed these problems. Got kids where they belong. Got them out of the hallways and out of classrooms they had no business in. These were things that were addressed, and they made a difference. And these things are changing in this district, and it is cleaned up quite a bit. So that is owed to the district, to people like you, Mark, when you got on this board, and the pledges you made to straighten this out. And as a father in this district, I'm very, very glad you did that, and very grateful for the work that this board did in addressing behavioral issues in this district. So that I also would like to talk about this past election, that love conquered hate here in Waukesha. It truly did. That love prevailed. And what is love? I want to read something that's from John 18:37. And you are king then, said Pilate. Jesus answered, you say that I am king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into this world was to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. And Pilate said, what is truth? Because Pilate was self-serving, he was a selfish man, and he made his own truth. He didn't follow God's will, he followed Pilate's will. He followed the government will. He followed man's will. He did not follow God's will. He did not know what love was. He made it up as he went along. He had no compassion for his fellow man. The Romans were known for this. They did not care. They made things up as they went along. I believe that things are as God intended from the beginning, because it can only be the truth if it's from the beginning. So from those first words in the Genesis to the last words of Amen, it has to be all true. There can't be anything in it that's not. So I believe that love doesn't take account of things that were said. It knows no wrong. It doesn't take account of wrong. It corrects wrong. It is just in its enforcement. It is a just God. He is all things to us. And I think that that's the ideas that prevailed. I am so sick in this entire town of people telling kids that there's something they're not, that they can chop off body parts of a child and call that love, to maim someone and stand upon their soapbox and say, I'm the parent of this child who I butchered. Those type of people don't know love. That is a hate. It is a hate
30
beyond
seconds.
hate. For their fellow man and for their children. They hate them. They love themselves. And I am so glad that's done. Thank you.
Okay. Next up on the agenda are our minute approvals. So we have minutes for 3 meetings. We have the March 12th regular board meeting, the March 12th executive session, and the March 19th executive session expulsion panel. Mrs. Voigt.
I move to approve the minutes as presented for the March 12th regular board meeting and executive session and the March 19th executive session for the expulsion panel.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Zenobia. Any questions or discussion? All right, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Betty Koenig?
Aye.
Mark Borowski?
Aye.
Eric Brooks?
Aye.
David Wad?
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia?
Aye.
Thomas Harland?
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski?
Aye.
Diane Voigt?
Aye.
Kelly Piasek?
Aye, passes 9-0. Next up is the WEF report presented by Mrs. Koenig.
Thank you, Madam President. The Waukesha Education Foundation Board of Directors met on April 3rd, 2025. We have a few things to talk about tonight. First of all, the WEF scholarships. Our scholarship portal closed in late March, and we are now in the evaluation process. We look forward to awarding close to $50,000 in scholarships this year. The WEF grants. Our annual grant application closed at midnight on April 8th. Our grants committee is starting the daunting task of reading and scoring each application. Winners will be announced in May. The exact date is not announced as we surprise the winners at the schools. Our evening for education. What a phenomenal evening. We hope you all enjoyed yourself, and if any of you have any feedback about the event, please share it with Lynette directly or provide feedback to myself and share with the board. Numbers are still being crunched as bills and things come in, but we have had over $60,000 in revenue and about $45,000 in profit, another new record. Thanks to so many board members for attending and for those that sponsored tables, including myself and Mrs. Voigt. The 2025 Partners in Education reception is 6/17/25 at Carroll University from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. This is a casual networking event, and all board members are encouraged to attend. We'll both email an invite and provide a paper invite at the May board meeting. Golf, it's coming. The golf outing is open for registration. Visit wefgolf25.givesmart.com or text wefgolf25 to 76278. We have a handful of sponsorships left and still room for golfers. We have opened registration officially at the end of March, and already we have 144 golfer spots reserved with a goal of 172. That means we are only 7 foursomes away from hitting our goal. Who wants to golf? We'd love to have you at this amazing fun event. A flyer is at each of your desks. Please sign up and or share with a friend. Any questions, please reach out to the WEF office at extension 1143 or email Lynette. Madam President, this concludes my WEF report. Thank you.
I think it is officially snowing outside right now, so we're going to talk about the golf outing. It happens fast. Not a lot of time to practice, but thank you. What a wonderful event. My only complaint is that none of my raffle tickets proved to be winners, so all to a good cause, but very nice evening. And just kudos to the people who pulled all of that together, Lynette and the extended team. It's just very well done. All right, we are moving into our consent agenda. And to begin, Mr. Clark will present our gift report.
Yeah, we have 4 gifts tonight. Jennifer and Timothy Gillette gave $500 to be used for expenses to cover the 2025 project graduation, the all-night party held at for seniors at West High School on the night of graduation. Matt and Jamie Lewis gave $3,200 to be used at Waukesha High School, or Waukesha South High School, for the girls' soccer program. And Amber Bauer gave $1,500 to support literacy needs at Hadfield. And St. Luke's Lutheran Church gave $745 for money to be used for support of students at Hadfield Elementary as well.
Wonderful. Thank you to all those individuals for their generosity. Your agenda tonight includes various categories for approval. If any board member wishes to have an item set aside for separate consideration, you'll have that opportunity in a moment. Included in the items for approval is a decision of the expulsion panel, which met on March 19th, 2025. A confidential communication regarding the details of the expulsion was in your Friday packet, along with the minutes included under item 1H. If any board member wishes to discuss this item, we have scheduled an executive session at the close of the regular meeting. Approval of the consent agenda confirms full board agreement with the expulsion panel's action. We also have for your consideration several policies and bylaws. The policies listed for approval under the consent agenda are Policy 5340, Student Accidents, Illness, Concussion, and Sudden Cardiac Arrest. Policy 5430, Class Rank. Policy 2271.01, Start College Now program. Policy 2270, Religion in the Classroom. Policies 1130, 3230, and 4230, Ethics and Conflict of Interest. And ironically, Policy 166.1, Consent Agenda. If any board member wishes to have an item set aside for separate consideration, please indicate so at this time. Mr. Wad.
Yes, President Piasek, I would request that policy 0166.1 consent agenda be moved to the policy section of the agenda and placed under action item.
So you would like to remove the consent agenda policy from the consent agenda?
Correct.
Thank you. Let's make note of that, and we'll discuss that and take action on that during the committee report. Anything else? All right, Mr. Borowski, would you present the amended consent agenda for approval, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Earlier this evening, the Human Resource and Compensation Committee approved 6 resignations, 1 retirement, 1 leave of absence, and 857 new or modified contracts. An updated consent agenda was placed on your desk, and I move that the consent agenda be approved as updated.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Brooks. Any questions or discussion? All right, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Mark Borowski.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Thomas Harlan.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0. Moving on to the superintendent's report, Dr. Seaberg.
All right, thank you, Dr. Piasek. We'll begin tonight with the very brief overnight field trip report given by Ms. Skinnerman.
Was that sarcasm?
Oh,
Okay.
very brief.
We just have one for tonight. It's for South High School. It's for the esports. This is in spring. They plan to do the state competition in Plymouth, Wisconsin.
All right, thank you, Ms. Skinnerman. Speaking of esports, we had a great night of celebration that required 2 sessions earlier tonight for our high school state qualifying teams. So at 5 o'clock, we recognized state qualifying teams in bowling, cheer, dance, gymnastics, ski, snowboarding, swimming and diving, and wrestling. And then at 5:45, we recognized state qualifiers in esports, powerlifting, academic decathlon, DECA, FBLA, FCCLA, HOSA, mock trial, Model UN, and visual arts. So thank you for those of us that were able to join us. It was very positive and uplifting, and we have a lot of students that are really excelling at a high level in a lot of different areas. I'm also ready to talk more later in the meeting about our readiness to embark upon a long-range budget planning process to ensure the long-term viability of the school district of Waukesha. And I'll look forward to outlining our Optimizing the Future process this evening under the F&F report. So thank you, Dr. Piasek. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. We are going to move into our committee reports, and tonight we start with the Teaching and Learning Committee, which will be presented by Mrs. Koenig.
Thank you, Madam President. The Teaching and Learning Committee met last week, Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. We have one action item that appears on the agenda for teaching and learning this evening. Our action item is the approval of the Spanish resource. Spanish World Language materials were last adopted in 1999, and the curriculum scope and sequence in Waukesha was approved in 2019. The team has been looking for materials that support quality and impactful pedagogy, a succinct scope and sequence between Spanish levels 1 through 6, including Spanish 5, AP Spanish Language and Culture, and Spanish 6, AP Spanish Literature. An overall guaranteed and viable curriculum resources so our students can have a common learning experience. At our March meeting, Spanish World Language materials were brought to the Teaching and Learning Committee for review as follows. Reporteros for Spanish 1 through 4, Generación AP for Advanced Placement Spanish Language and Culture, and Azulejo for Advanced Placement Spanish Literature. The later resource is already in use. Additional copies are required to meet student needs. CLET Reporteros is in year 1 of implementation in eAchieve, where students enrolled and participating in the class are experiencing success. The recommendation to purchase and implement the resources in phases over 3 school years due to the increased rigor of the updated resources. Phase 1 would focus on Spanish 1 and 2, AP Spanish Language and Culture, and AP Spanish Literature for fall 2025. Phase 2 would take place in fall of 2026 and focus on Spanish 3 resources. The purchase of Spanish 4 resources would then occur in the fall of 2027 as the last and final phase of this rolling purchase and implementation plan. On a vote of 5-0, the Teaching and Learning Committee approved the CLET Reporteros for Spanish 1 through 4, Generación AP for Advanced Placement Spanish Language and Culture, and Azulejo for Advanced Placement Spanish Literature as presented. The committee requests board approval, and I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wad. My only comment is that Mrs. Koenig was the absolute right person to read this update. Very well done.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? All right, Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on how grateful I am for Dee Garcia and her team taking this on. It was, you could tell how detailed and how much thought went into this, and it's just another example of this district's willingness to invest in curriculum that's rigorous and challenges students, but make sure that we're putting investments in our classrooms.
Great point. All right, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Thomas Harlan.
Aye.
Mark Borowski.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0.
Okay. Madam President, this concludes the Teaching and Learning Committee report. Our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 6, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the boardroom here at the Blair Administration Building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Koenig. Next up is the Student Services Committee, which will be presented by Mr. Zenobia.
Thank you, Dr. Piasek. So the Student Services Committee met on April 3rd here in the boardroom. We had one action item, which was passed in your consent agenda this evening. That was policy 5340. And we had 2 discussion items that were on our agenda. The first of which was the role of Director of Related Services. Throughout the last couple of years, our Student Services Committee has brought forward a series of presentations describing individual roles. Karen Knopf, our Director of Related Services, provided information about her work with our related service providers, the Waukesha County Special Education Consortium, and STW Family Engagement Initiatives, as well as the updated DPI mandated procedural compliance self-audit. Our second discussion information item was on the academic and social behavior curriculum update that was given to us by Mr. Mark Lerner, our Director of Student Services. He briefed the committee on the curriculum that's currently being piloted at the middle and high school levels. That curriculum includes weekly lessons presented in homeroom on 5 competencies. Which are self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. On the mid-year self-assessment, students showed growth in each competency compared to the beginning of the school year. District behavior data reflects growth with decreased use of out-of-school suspensions, in-school suspensions, pre-expulsions, detentions, and no pass list additions. Another self-assessment will be taken at the end of the school year, and the administration will then return to give us another update on those assessments when complete. That completes my brief Student Services Committee report. The committee will meet again on Tuesday, May 6th here in the boardroom.
Thank you, Mr. Zenobia. All right, Mr. Borowski, is there anything additional for the Human Resources and Compensation Committee?
No, Mr. President, there were no action items or discussion items this evening.
Thank you. And thank you again for your service to that committee. Next up, Policy and Government Relations, presented by Mr. Wad.
Thank you. So there were 4 policies from Policy and Government Relations on the consent agenda this evening. 3 of the policies, 1130, 3230, and 4230, concerning ethics and conflict of interest were approved. However, the 4th policy, 0166.1 consent agenda, was removed from the consent agenda at my request to allow for further discussion and possible action. So that will be an action item for us now this evening, and I will start there. So there were 2 revisions to the policy. The first was to remove the last sentence in full. Any item on the consent agenda may be removed and discussed as a non-action item or be deferred for further study and discussion at a subsequent board meeting if the superintendent or any board member thinks this item requires further discussion. So the reason for removing this sentence is to align with Policy 1210, Board Superintendent Relationship. Policy 1210 states that administrative participation shall be by professional counsel and guidance as distinct from deliberation, debate, and voting of board members. The conclusion of the committee was that if the superintendent has the ability to defer an item, an action item, that does not align with that policy. The same basically applied to the section talking about a board member may also defer it for further discussion. It was the judgment of the committee that neither the superintendent nor a single board member should have the ability to remove action items currently agendized. This is a power reserved for a majority of the board members present when it is an action item on the agenda. Any comments on that before I move on to the second piece? All right. The second revision in the policy was to add that current policies and bylaws may only be included on the consent agenda if they have been revised by a board committee at least 24 hours prior to the board meeting. This addition is being suggested in order for the board to have adequate time and opportunity to consider revisions to policies that occurred less than 24 hours prior to a board meeting. The Policy and Government Relations Committee approved the changes to 0166.1 unanimously, and I so move.
Mrs. Boyd.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Seconded by Mrs. Boyd. Any questions or comments about that? Just one general comment that I wanted to make in the context of doing this update. You know, there were changes to this policy a few years back, just as some of us were coming onto the board, in terms of where the actual policies go. It's a common practice by a number of boards, but I think the right for anybody to pull anything out just allows us to be efficient where we can be efficient, and there are small modifications, and then to really dig in where we think it's appropriate. So just as a reminder to everybody, there's nothing that goes into the consent agenda that doesn't have the opportunity to come out. So I think this just allows us to be, selective in terms of what we want to discuss or what we think might need further discussion. And I think our relationship with the administration is very effective, and it does make sense to align that to the other policies. So I'm grateful that the committee took that up. Are there any questions about the changes or concerns? Okay, so Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Thomas Harland.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Mark Borowski.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Mrs. President. For discussion and information items, there were 5 discussion information items on the agenda. 3 of them were policy technical corrections. The first policy technical correction was policy 8310, public records technical correction. Language was added to reflect that the adopted record schedule refers to the current version. The second policy technical correction was policy 6320, which dealt with purchasing dealt with purchasing. A cross-reference to new policy 8125 consultants was added. And the third policy correction was to policy 6230, budget hearing. A correction was made to the statutory citation. Wisconsin statute 65.90 references multiple budgets of which school districts are included. Any questions on any of the technical corrections? All right, two discussion information items were government relations related. Dr. Siebert provided a 2025 through 2027 state budget update. He summarized his testimony to the Joint Committee on Finance. He shared that written version with the committee, and I believe it was included in the board packet for this evening. He shared that the School District of Waukesha Board of Education and administrative team are strong fiscal stewards of resources, citing multiple examples. For example, the district invested over $6 million in the last 3 years in guaranteed and viable curriculum resources to ensure dollars flow directly into the classroom for kids and teachers. That our district has the lowest mill rate in Waukesha County and will be debt-free in 2026, paying off a $60 million referendum in just 8 years while saving taxpayers $2 million in interest. That the district is currently embarking on a long-range budget plan. That the district maximized ESSER funds by spending 53% on HVAC work and 37% on educational resources, and that we invested $15 million in our facilities last summer without asking more from our constituents. On behalf of the district, Dr. Siebert asked for another increase in the low revenue ceiling, which allows for local control and local decision-making, and an increase in special education reimbursement and mental health funding over the biennium, which will offset the continual impact of inflation, address the growing mental health needs of our students, and better ensure our ability to maintain staffing and programming levels that serve kids and families at a high level. And the final discussion item was on educational legislation and bills. Specifically, we discussed 2025 Assembly Bill 1 relating to student testing standards and accountability results. Under the bill, DPI would return to using the same cut scores, score ranges, and corresponding descriptions to those used in the 2019-2020 school year. The intent was to make it easier for districts to compare scores across multiple years. However, the bill was vetoed by the governor, and that concludes my report. The next Policy and Government Relations Committee meeting is scheduled for May 12th, 2025.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
If I could just expand on something. I think the discussion, there are a couple of items in here. I think, first of all, it's really important to emphasize the relationship that the district has with its legislators, and the issues that we continue to work on with them. And we've seen some of this stuff show up in legislative action, and the push for increased funding in special education is something I think, we've heard from many people is something we should continue to push for. That's an unfunded mandate. We are mandated to provide those services and not provided adequate funding to do so. And it causes us to divert funds from our general fund to the special education fund. Also, the 2025 Assembly Bill 1 being vetoed, I just think it's worth noting, we spent a considerable amount of time in this room discussing the hardship that the changes that the current DPI secretary made that watered down those standards and made them impossible to to compare year over year so that we could maintain that standard baseline. And then the governor, who instituted the standards that they were going to revert back to and was publicly critical of Secretary Underly's or Superintendent Underly's changes, then vetoed them. I sometimes say you just can't make this stuff up, and this is one of those things you just can't make up. I have no idea what the rationale is besides politics, but it's extremely frustrating. I have to believe it's frustrating to our administrative team who is trying to use the data that comes from those reports effectively, and when the standards aren't maintained year over year, As we've discussed multiple times at this table, it's extremely challenging for school districts.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Watt hit a lot of those points. I want to touch on the budget report that Dr. Siebert shared. Just having had the opportunity to work in a finance office in the state legislature, it's incredibly important to tell our story, and I think we have a great story to tell here in Waukesha. I think a lot of times that for those of you who've been to those budget hearings or who've watched them online, they're very long, and a lot of times after a certain point, a lot of the testimony starts to blend together, especially from, a lot of school districts are experiencing similar challenges. When you're able to tell your story and say, look, we're doing these things really, really well, but imagine what we could do if we just had this little bit more. I think that cuts through a lot of the noise, and it stands out to people, and we are fortunate to have very, very positive relationships with a lot of our legislative delegation who represents the school district of Waukesha. One of our members is, or our state senator is on the Joint Finance Committee, and so we're very lucky to have that voice, and I appreciate Dr. Siebert telling our story and then being able to advocate for those things that we need.
Any other comments? I think as we're kind of wrapping up this this cycle, committee cycle, I really like the combination of the policy and government relations piece, and I think, Mr. Watt, you've been doing a great job of facilitating all of that, so I think that's going very well. Anything else for your committee? That's all? Okay. All right, and last up tonight, we have the Finance and Facilities Committee report given by Mrs. Kozlowski.
The Finance and Facilities Committee met on Monday, April 7th. There was one action item and 4 discussion items. The first action item was the North High School Drainage Project easement approval. The administration presented an easement with AT&T that is related to the drainage project. The committee approved the North High School drainage easement as presented, and I so move.
Second.
Mrs. Boyd actually signaled
Okay.
she was going to second, so, or is that what you wanted? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I second the motion.
Seconded by Mrs. Boyd, thank you. Any further questions? All right, Mrs. Ettinger.
David Wad,
Aye.
Thomas Harlan,
Aye.
Diane Voigt,
Aye.
Mark Borowski,
Aye.
Betty Koenig,
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia,
Aye.
Eric Brooks,
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski,
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0. Back to you.
Staying with the same theme, the first discussion item was the North High School Drainage Project update overall. The administration presented the committee with an update on the project budget. It was reported that the first and second bid packages representing the majority of the project cost have come in well below budget. Preliminary estimates have the project coming in roughly 25 to 30% below the original budget. It's also worth noting that when this project was approved, that the cap that we said we would spend is $750,000 tops, and so to have a budget coming in that would put us well under that is again demonstration of the good partnership that we have with our contractors in the city and other work that we're doing to be able to partner with these things to get some good stuff done. The second discussion item was the 2025-2026 budget development. The administration updated the committee on the updated assumptions for the 2025-2026 budget. The administration will continue to update the committee as more budget-related information becomes available. The third discussion item is the monthly budget report. The committee was presented with an update on the school district's fiscal activity through March 31st. It was reported that the district will receive our tax payments in April and that the budget continues to be within approved budget allocations. And to keep everyone on their toes, the last discussion item is the district's long-range planning. The committee was presented with a 3-phase process and timeline to be utilized in developing a district long-range plan.
Due to the importance of this topic, I thought it would be good to have Dr. Siebert present the recommendation to the full school board, as was seen in the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting.
All right. Well, thank you, Mrs. Kozlowski. I'm happy to do that. This is the presentation that we talked about on Monday evening in F&F. This conversation started back in March when we suggested we would like to come forward with a plan design in terms of looking at the long-range viability and health of the School District of Waukesha in light of challenges, including declining enrollment. So from the standpoint of long-range planning, what we would like to do administratively is create a long-range budget planning process that would assist us in guiding future decision-making, as opposed to continuing on a year-to-year basis when we see these trends continuing. So some key points from our overall long-range vision. Our primary objective has been and will always be to provide students and families in Waukesha with access to a high-quality education. That will never change. And we are very proud of our focus on and our tradition of academic achievement, along with the exceptional work of our teaching and district support staff. We can't say that enough. We have incredible people in our classrooms, and with the board support, we've added so many curricular resources and accentuated the opportunities for students and teachers in the classroom significantly. We want to continue the tradition of providing the finest educational opportunities to support our kids, and we know that in order to maintain or continue to provide that level of opportunity year over year, we have to look at how we best utilize the resources that we have available to us. We talked about it earlier, Mr. Wad mentioned it, that we really pride ourselves on being financial stewards and being strong stewardship of our community's resources. We know that as late as 1993, we built new schools to address enrollment that was peaking at over 13,000 kids in 2012, 2013. However, our enrollment has continued to drop since that time, about 2% per year, and hovers right now around 10,500 students. That projection is projected to continue to increase and evolve through 2034. And so administratively, our goal is to reduce our building capacity by 10 to 15% to be in line with that current enrollment trend. And our initial focus in this work, which I'll describe how we propose doing that work next, would be on our K-8 school footprint. So before I do that, I think it's important to note that we are not alone in this discussion. And there are multiple larger school districts across the state of Wisconsin that are having this same conversation, and neighbors in our own backyard that are also having this conversation. It's also not a Waukesha or Wisconsin or it's a national problem. There are just fewer students, fewer kids, babies being born, and there's more competition in the educational marketplace than ever before. It's also not just contained to K-12 education. We see higher ed facing the same challenges. In our area, Cardinal Stritch and next UWM at Waukesha closing their doors are further examples of smaller numbers of students. So our Optimizing the Future plan is a three-phased approach that would look at the entire calendar year of 2025, as I'll outline here. Starting in phase one, which would be information sharing. We propose those meetings in April and May, and those are internal and external meetings where we are talking about the challenges that face the School District of Waukesha. The next phase, which would be phase two, would be the gathering input phase. That would take place in late May through October. That's where we would be refining our final plan proposals that we plan to recommend to you and getting internal and external feedback on those plans throughout the summer into the fall. And then phase three of this process is what we're terming presenting a recommendation. So bringing a recommendation forward to the Board of Education for your consideration. And I want to also make clear that in this process, we would not be asking for any activity to take place prior to the beginning of the 26-27 school year at the earliest. So in the phase one information sharing meetings, our agenda would be to discuss enrollment trends and how that impacts school funding. The steps taken to address those enrollment trends to date. We've taken multiple steps already. And then what are the next steps in the overall Optimizing the Future process? We have the information sharing dates set for the staff. Bless you. Those would start next week. On Monday, we'd be at Butler Middle School at 3:15 and 4:15 in the auditorium. April 15th, West High School, same times in the auditorium. And on April 16th at Horning Middle School at the same times in their auditorium. Those times are designed for our secondary staff to attend the earlier ones, our elementary staff to be able to attend the later ones, and our staff would be welcome to attend any of those meetings. We'll have more details for our staff in our Explorer weekly communication tomorrow. And then we also have planned our information sharing for the community meetings. Those will be held in the evening in the auditoriums at West at 6 p.m. on April 22nd, at Butler on May 1st at 6 p.m., and in the Horning Auditorium at 6 p.m. on May 7th. So again, that is an overview of the process, 3 phases. It would take us all the way through the calendar year of 2025 to ensure that we do an adequate job of sharing the information as well as gathering input from our constituents, both internal and external, and then ultimately presenting a recommendation for your consideration near the end of the calendar year 2025. So a few final thoughts. We want to do this work because we believe that it will guide us in future decision-making and preserve the long-term viability of the School District of Waukesha. We believe we are better when we take matters into our own hands and try to control our own destiny. We are not alone, as I pointed out, in facing declining enrollment and fewer students. It's becoming a more common problem for most every school district. Our goal is to reduce the building capacity by 10 to 15% for long-term sustainability, with the first focus on our K-8 school footprint. And we believe it's important to use the calendar year of 2025 to engage our staff and community in this important work. So I'm happy to, Mr. Clark, the cabinet and I, we've all been working on this together. Any questions that we can try to answer for you, we'd be open to.
Mr. Browski?
Yeah, I realize not all the details are worked out yet. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but I'm curious on the information sharing as well as the feedback that you're going to receive. Is that going to be done just beyond verbally? Are there other ways, that the staff and the community is going to give the district feedback?
That's a good question. So we will have a one-stop shop on our website, the Optimizing the Future area, where we'll load all of our resources, including this presentation, our capacity studies, our enrollment studies, all of those pieces. And then when we have our meetings, our primary vehicle will be the use of a QR code so that we can track all of the questions and then use those questions, answer them, and then create a frequently asked question document. That's the primary way that we propose doing it in the information sharing session. We will have a presentation at the May F&F committee meeting to review how the informational sessions have gone, as well as with the full board, and then also have a presentation similar to this for the details of phase 2, which will be the gathering input phase. But that will also be contained within a written submission so that we have access to all of that information. We can make it publicly available, and then we can answer those questions.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear there's like a written element to it, because I think if it's just verbal, it's easy for things to get lost and maybe some points to be overemphasized, versus kind of going through all the written comments. And I guess I would just encourage, the community and the staff to give their input. I mean, I think in our past experience, these sessions, to put it nicely, can become complaint sessions. And, this is a very important, necessary, proactive process that the district's going through. And I think it's totally necessary. And, I think we're all looking forward to what those results are. But let's, if people have input, let's get some coherent thoughts down on paper, and let's deliver them in a way that can be received by administration to have the influence that maybe you want to have. So I would just encourage both the staff and community to do that.
Mr. Wad?
Yes, thank you. Kind of dovetailing on Mr. Browski's comments. I really appreciate the thought that's been put into the communication planning for this, and the multiple steps along the way to share information and gather feedback from our staff and our community. So I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to seeing how that all unfolds. If I could just ask a couple of questions, Dr. Siebert, because I've already seen some chatter about this in social media, and one of my concerns is nipping some of the rumors that start floating out in the bud before we even have communicated anything beyond this to the district. Just reemphasizing, you say the focus is on K-8 schools. There's no discussion around the high school footprints at this time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I know I've seen some speculation around that, and I wanted to get that squashed right away. The other thing that I want to make sure is clear, is there a plan that we just haven't seen yet? Or are we truly embarking on, we have some thoughts and we want to start thinking through those and getting feedback? Because I think there are people in the community who are convinced that there's already been decisions made, and I want it out on the table. Because if there is, I haven't seen it. And I want to give you the opportunity to address that head on.
Yeah, sure. No, there is not a current plan. It's our job to think about this all the time, right? And how
Sure.
are we going to be sustainable for the long-term haul? But there is not a current plan. Part of what we will do through the information sharing is start to understand questions that people are asking that will help us ultimately, leading up to the gathering input phase, develop what we hope to be multiple different plans that we can gather feedback on.
Okay. Then the last thing, so you and I think we discussed this briefly on Monday at the Finance Committee meeting, but, and I want to echo what Mr. Borowski said. If you have concerns about this, if you're part of the public or staff, please attend the info sharing meetings if you're able. But for those that aren't able to attend, we are going to try and make sure we get a video presentation of one of those information sharing sessions up for the public who can't attend in person. Is that correct?
That is our goal, yeah. We wouldn't video all of them, but we would video one of them that we can put on our website.
Okay, great, thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question, but first I just want to say how I'm excited about what we're about to embark on, because I think you're right. We have seen a lot of other school districts that have done this, but a lot of them have waited until they have no other choice, until it's too late. I think we're being very proactive in our efforts here to be smart with our decision making, to gather that feedback from the public, and making sure that we are putting our resources where they matter most, which is our classrooms. I've always said buildings don't educate kids, teachers do. And we need to make sure that we're investing in our teachers. We need to make sure that we're investing in our students and that we're investing in our classrooms. And I think this will give us the tools to do that. You know, it's easy to just say, well, we need to be creative with our decision making. It sounds nice and it doesn't offend people, but it ultimately doesn't get you anywhere. I think these are the tough decisions, but they're the necessary decisions to make if we want to continue to be fiscally responsible and make sure that we're not going to the taxpayers like so many other districts around us are to constantly ask them to raise their own taxes. I just have one question about what, aside from just announcing it here about the listening sessions, what are we doing to inform to inform the public who might not listen to our school board meetings that we're going to be having these listening sessions?
Sure. Good question, Mr. Brooks. So tomorrow, every week, we have a weekly Explorer communication. Normally goes out on Wednesdays. We saved it till Thursday this week, so we'll be informing the staff about this on a deeper level in that communication tomorrow. We will have a piece in the Waukesha Freeman on Saturday that will describe with more depth the rationale behind why we want to engage in this work, why we think it's important, and when the community sessions are as well. And so then next week already, we'll start the staff sessions. And then the community sessions, we have a little bit of time, and we'll continue to populate the website. We'll do some social media aspects with that as well. And I think we'll do as much as we can to make sure that people are aware that this opportunity presents itself. I also think it's important that I make clear that we're not, to your point earlier, we're not in a crisis, right? We're trying to be proactive in looking at what trends we see with enrollment, cast out through 2034. They've proven true so far, and so we know we can be more efficient. We can offer the same, if not better, opportunities in fewer buildings, and that's what we're excited about continuing to pursue with the input and the feedback from both our staff and our external community.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate the level of outreach that our district is doing, and to echo what Mr. Borowski and Mr. Wad said, I encourage as many members of our public to make their voices heard and make sure that they are participating in this process, because we need to hear from them and we need to hear from our staff in this process.
Mrs. Boyd.
I want to thank Mr. Wad for bringing up 3 concerns that I had intended to do. Again, social media buzz got way off track already today, and I think the clarifications that he made, about some of the things that that was out there already. And I really want to invite the community to have a chance to have input. Decisions have not been made. This is truly your chance to, be in on the ground floor in terms of making decisions that are important ones that need to be made for us to be lean and mean going forward, to be able to, not be wasting money on half-filled buildings. So I think, I commend the district on the approach that we're taking for this long-term decision-making.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Foy.
Okay, anybody else? All right, back to Mrs. Kozlowski. Thank you, Dr. Siebert.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Siebert. I express my gratitude to you and the administration for the thoughtful and very strategic approach that we're doing with this. I think it's been a cry that we've heard from the community. And I also want to say that this is in line with everything that we have done. The administration and the board over the last 4 to 5 years has been incredibly focused on the students, and so student count, where everything is directed to them. And everything in an educational environment is directed towards students. And that starts with the number of students that we are responsible for learning. That drives the staffing, that drives the curriculum model. And now we're at a point where we need to talk about the fixed costs of the infrastructure that we are using to sit in. And these are hard conversations, and I look forward to where we're going. But I want to echo, I think, what everyone has said, that this is what the community is asking for. This is what we need to do, and I'm very encouraged as to where we're going.
Thank you.
The next FNF meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 12th at 5:30 PM in the boardroom. And Dr. Piasek, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Kozlowski. That concludes our committee reports for this evening. We're moving into other business. Are there any recommendations for future board or committee action or discussion items?
Mr. President?
Oh, hi, Mr. Bresky.
I could be wrong about this, but I just want to make sure, since we moved 0166 off the consent agenda, don't we need to vote on it now?
We did.
We voted on it during my meeting.
Right, the policy.
But during the policy, yes.
But then, okay, I'm just thinking, all right. I
It
was
passed.
thinking that we had to vote on it here instead of just discussing it.
Yeah, I moved it. I don't remember who seconded it, but it passed 9-0.
Okay.
Correct?
It was seconded
Yeah.
by Mrs. Voigt, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay. Totally missed that, all right.
All right, so we do need to go into closed session tonight for only item C tonight. So I'd be looking for somebody to read that for us.
I'll try not to read the incorrect one this time. So I move to adjourn to executive session per Wisconsin statutes 19.885, parent 1, parent C, to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, preliminary notices of non-renewal, or final notices of non-renewal.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Brooks. Mrs. Ettinger, would you take a roll call, please?
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
Mark Borowski.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Thomas Harlan.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0, which means we are adjourned to executive session. Will we be returning? We will be returning. So that concludes our meeting for tonight. Our next meeting will be here in the boardroom on Wednesday, May 14th at 6:30 PM. And we are adjourned. All right, we have reconvened from closed session. Mr. Wad, would you roll call us back in?
Yes, Betty Koenig,
Here.
Mark Borowski,
Here.
Eric Brooks.
Here.
David Wad here. Anthony Zenobia,
Here.
Thomas Harland,
Here.
Carrie Kozlowski,
Here.
Diane Voigt,
Here.
and Kelly Piasek.
Here. All right, Mr. Borowski, do you have some business for us?
Yes, I have two motions. The first one is approval of preliminary notices of non-renewal. So preliminary approval of non-renewal is a process needed to meet statutory requirements for giving notice of non-renewal recommendation. Employees that are considered for non-renewal due to program enrollment or performance and conduct have been informed of this process. So I move to approve the preliminary notices of non-renewal as discussed in closed session.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Kozlowski. Discussion. Mr. Wad, would you take the roll call, please?
Yes. Betty Koenig,
Aye.
Mark Borowski,
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
David Wad, aye. Anthony Zenobia,
Aye.
Thomas Harland,
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski,
Aye.
Diane Voigt,
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye. Passes 9-0.
I'm sorry, I missed the move. It was moved by Mr. Borowski, is that
Yep,
right?
Yes.
seconded by Mrs.
Sec-
Kozlowski.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and the second one is approval of final notices of non-renewal. So final approval of non-renewal is a process needed to meet statutory requirements for giving notice of non-renewal recommendation. Employees that are considered for non-renewal due to program enrollment or performance of conduct have been informed of this process. So I move to approve the final notices of non-renewal as discussed in closed session.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Kozlowski. All right, Mr. Wad, go ahead.
Okay. Carrie Kozlowski,
Aye.
David Wad, aye. Betty Koenig,
Aye.
Eric Brooks,
Aye.
Diane Voigt,
Aye.
Mark Borowski.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia,
Aye.
Thomas Harland,
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye. Passes 9-0. Hey, thanks, everybody. We're adjourned for this evening.